Hello, BIB 1001. I was worried that with no class on Thursday, you'd go through the whole weekend sad and depressed, and I just felt horrible about that. So, in an effort to cure you, I'm sharing this video with you. And of course, it's mandatory that you watch it. But I'm assuming that you have read Genesis 2 with the creation of the woman. And I just have a few questions for you. I think you know the story about how the Lord God said that it wasn't good for the man to be alone. And the Lord God made all the animals and brought them before the man, and the man named them all, and still no suitable helper was found. And so the Lord God put the man into a deep sleep. And while the man's sleeping, the Lord extracted a rib from his side and built a woman, awakened the man, and presented the woman to her, or to him. And the man was excited. He says, finally, this time, God, you got it right. This is the right one. She's bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken from the side of man. And then we get this line about marriage. For this reason, a man will leave his mother and father and will hold fast to his wife, and those two will become one flesh. And finally, the closing line, the man and his woman were both naked and felt no shame. Now, I just have a few questions for you. I want you to think about it. How would things be different if instead of the woman being made from the rib, the side of man, the woman was actually made from more dirt? That just like the animals were made from dirt and God put breath in them, so God would have found another pile of dirt and made the woman and presented the woman to the man. How would things be different if that were the case? And maybe a second question, what difference does it make that God built the woman out of a rib taken from the side of man? Like, why a rib? Why not a foot bone? How would things be different if God used one of the bones in the feet? Or how would things be different if God, took a chip of the man's cranium and used that to build the woman and present the woman to the man? So why a rib, and how would things be different if God would have used a different bone from the man? Another question, I'm just thinking, how would things be different today if instead of presenting the man with one woman, God actually presented the man with six women? Maybe God pulled out a rack of ribs and built six women and gave them to the man. How would life be different today? And then I'm also kind of puzzling a little bit over how we move so quickly from it's not good for the man to be alone to marriage. That for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Like, we got to a marriage really fast. What if that ending wasn't there? Would that make the story any different? And then finally, the man and his wife were both naked and felt no shame. Is that just these first two people, this first man, this first woman in the garden without any clothes on and no shame? Or is this actually a statement about God's design for marriage? So those are things I want you to think a little bit about, maybe talk to a classmate or even a roommate about. And then on Tuesday, we'll talk about those things and we'll move on into Genesis chapter 3. I hope you have a great weekend, and remember to get out to church so that it really is a great weekend. Take care.